Okay, so are you ready to dive into this whole unapologetic woman thing?
I am.
Because this Davina Kirk social intercourse episode,
Yeah.
I was just like taking notes like crazy
Right.
because she really gets into like why ambition is
Yeah.
a bad word when it comes to women.
Right.
Like we're supposed to want it, but not too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting is that she doesn't just like point it out. She names it.
Right.
She calls it out like this double standard exists where women are judged
Yes.
so harshly for the same ambition that we praise in men.
It's like two different sets of rules.
Yeah.
And that's what she means by double standard, right? It's
Yeah.
like the same behavior
Yeah.
judged totally differently based on
Totally.
whether you're a man or a woman doing it.
Yep.
And it makes me think about that whole girl boss thing.
Yes.
Like it started out so empowering,
Yeah.
but it kind of feels like it's,
Diminishing.
diminishing, you know?
Yeah. And like we have to like shrink ourselves down to fit in. And I think the Serena Williams example that she gives,
Yes.
when Serena was labeled as hysterical
At the U.S. Open.
at the U.S. Open,
Right.
For, her behavior on the court.
Yeah.
And, we've seen male athletes
Oh, yeah.
get away with way worse
All the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not even about condoning, bad behavior at all.
Right.
But it's just like the reactions are so different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that study. She brought up the Harvard Business Review study
Yes.
that found that women who self-promote are seen as less likable
Yes.
than men who do the same thing.
Ugh, it's
It's a tightrope
such a tightrope.
to walk, isn't it?
Yeah. And this is where I think things get really fascinating, from a sociological perspective.
Yeah.
This discomfort with ambitious women
Uh-huh.
oftentimes stems from the fact that they're challenging the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
and these systems that have traditionally benefited from, keeping women in a more passive role. They start to feel threatened when women step up
Interesting.
and say, hey, I deserve a seat at the table too.
So it's not the ambition itself, it's that it upsets the power dynamic
Yes.
that makes people uncomfortable.
Exactly. And this is where I think Kirk's call to like redefine ambition is so important.
Okay. Yeah.
What if we stop seeing it as this like negative, power-hungry trait
Yeah.
and started viewing it as the fuel that drives us to make a difference,
Right.
to chase our dreams and to create positive change in the world?
I love that reframe because honestly, when I think of like the women that I admire most,
Yeah,
their ambition is like
huge part of it.
a huge part of what makes them so inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she challenges us to own that ambition,
Okay.
to stop apologizing for taking up space,
Yeah.
setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that she brought in that anecdote about being told she was too direct in meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And she just decided, like, you know what? I'm going to be authentic to myself rather than trying to fit into this mold
Right.
of what a woman in the workplace should be.
That resonates with me big time.
Yeah.
I've been in those situations too where it's like, oh, should I soften my language?
Oh, yeah.
Should I downplay my achievements a little bit?
Totally.
But what she's saying is like, why should we?
Yeah. Why should we apologize for being confident and capable?
Yeah.
And here's a question. What if by embracing our ambition unapologetically,
Yeah.
we actually start to change those outdated expectations?
Right.
What if we become the role models that show other women
Yeah.
that it's okay to be ambitious, to strive for greatness, and to make their mark on the world?
That's such a powerful thought.
Yeah.
And she backs this up with some great examples.
Yes.
I mean, just look at Rihanna,
Oh, my God.
who not only built this like billion-dollar empire,
For the Fenty
pretty Fenty,
Yeah,
but also completely redefined the beauty industry.
totally. And, she saw a gap.
Yeah.
She went for it,
Yeah.
and she changed the game.
Totally. And like Greta Thunberg, too.
Yes.
Like who just challenges world leaders on climate change,
Fearless.
even when she's getting so much scrutiny. Talk
Yeah.
about unapologetic.
Totally. And what's so inspiring about both of them is that they didn't wait for permission
Right.
to make a difference. They saw a need,
Yeah.
stepped up, and created their own paths.
And you know what? It's not just those big names.
Yeah.
I think about the women in my own life,
Yes.
like my mom, my best friend, who
Yeah.
just embodied this, like, I'm going for it. No apologies.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing and celebrating those everyday revolutionaries all around us.
Yeah.
The women who are living their truth, pursuing their passions,
Right.
and inspiring others by simply being themselves. And that leads to Kirk's message about
Yes.
collective empowerment.
It's like, how do we build each other up instead of tearing each other down?
Exactly.
How do we create this like sisterhood of support
Yes.
where women feel empowered to chase their dreams without judgment?
And Kirk gives us some really actionable steps
Okay.
on how we can do that.
Ooh, so you're saying we got to leave them hanging
We got to leave them hanging.
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to leave our listeners on the edge of their seats.
Yes.
And we'll be right back in part 2 to unpack those actionable steps.
I can't wait.
All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Yes.
We are picking up where we left off with Davina Kirk and the Unapologetic Woman.
I'm excited.
And before the break, we were talking about this whole idea of
Yes.
collective empowerment and like, how do we support each other?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to hear like what actionable steps she suggests.
Well, she doesn't just leave us hanging with like a feel-good message.
Okay, good.
She gets down to like brass tacks.
Okay.
And one of the big things that she talks about is celebrating each other's successes.
Okay.
Like genuinely being happy for other women when they win instead of feeling threatened.
That's where I struggle.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get into that comparison trap,
Oh, totally.
especially with social media.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's like
everyone's highlight reel.
highlight reel all the time. And it's almost like our brains are wired
Yeah,
to compare and compete.
right.
But what Kirk is suggesting is a radical shift in mindset.
Okay.
What if instead of feeling envious, we tried to feel inspired by other women's accomplishments?
So it's like recognizing that one woman's success
Doesn't diminish.
doesn't take away from another's.
Exactly. It's about moving from that scarcity mindset
Okay,
to an abundance mindset.
I like that.
Believing that there's enough success to go around and that when one woman wins, we all win.
Okay, so how do we put that into practice?
Well, I think Kirk suggests, starting with small intentional acts,
Okay.
like sincerely congratulating a colleague on a promotion or sharing a friend's business launch on social media.
Yeah.
Those little things can really make a difference.
It's like intentionally amplifying each other's voices.
Exactly. And speaking of amplifying voices, she also talks about mentorship.
Mentorship is huge.
Yeah.
Think about the women who have guided you along the way, who have believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself.
Yes.
It's about paying it forward and providing that same support to other women.
I've had some incredible mentors in my life, and
Yeah.
they've made such a difference.
Me too. It's like having that champion in your corner,
Totally.
someone who sees your potential and helps you unlock it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this like formal program.
That can be as simple as like offering advice to a younger colleague,
Right.
making an introduction, or just being a listening ear.
It's about creating that network
Yeah.
where we can all lean on each other,
Yes.
share our experiences,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes support means calling out those biases when we see them,
Ooh, yeah.
and that can be a lot trickier.
It can be a lot trickier, and it's not always easy to confront those uncomfortable situations.
Right.
But, Kirk points out that staying silent often sends the message
Yeah.
that we condone those biases.
Right.
We have a responsibility to speak up, not just for ourselves, but for all women.
Okay, but how do we do that effectively?
It depends on the situation.
Okay.
Sometimes a direct, assertive response is necessary.
Yeah.
Other times, a more subtle approach, like gently educating someone
Mm-hmm.
about the impact of their words, might be more effective.
It's about reading the room,
Yes.
right? And choosing the approach that's going to create positive change.
Exactly. And sometimes just raising awareness is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people are just clueless
Right.
about the subtle ways that bias creeps in
Mm-hmm.
to our language and our behavior. And so by pointing it out,
Yeah.
we can help them to become more aware and sensitive.
So we're shining a light on those blind spots
Yes,
and starting those conversations about how to do better.
exactly. And those conversations can be uncomfortable, but they're so important. It's not about attacking individuals.
Right.
It's about addressing systemic issues and working together
Yeah.
to create a more equitable world.
This whole conversation about challenging the status quo and advocating for change makes me think about self-care.
Yes.
It's so easy to get burned out
Oh my
when
God.
you're constantly fighting against these injustices.
You're so right. And Kirk makes a really good point about this.
Okay.
She says that self-care isn't selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, we have to take care of ourselves mentally, emotionally,
Yeah.
if we want to be effective agents of change.
And when we prioritize our own well-being, we're actually better equipped to support others
Yeah.
and create the change that we want to see in the world.
It's like a cycle of empowerment,
Yes, so
Taking care of ourselves allows us to empower others, and their strength empowers us. And that brings us to another point that she makes, which is embracing vulnerability.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is a good one.
Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, especially for women.
Yeah.
But Kirk suggests that it can actually be a source of strength.
Okay, so how so?
It's about letting go of the need to be perfect
Mm-hmm.
and allowing ourselves to be seen flaws and
Yeah.
to connect with others on a deeper level.
So having the courage to be authentic,
Yes.
even when it feels scary.
And here's the thing. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable,
Yeah,
we create space for others to do the same.
that's true.
It fosters connection, empathy, a sense of shared humanity.
So instead of trying to present this perfect, polished version of ourselves, it's like, hey, I'm human. I struggle. I make mistakes.
Yes.
And that's okay.
And that's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's our imperfections that make us unique and interesting.
That's where our true beauty shines through.
I love that. I think this is a great place to transition to the final part.
Of our deep dive.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about those external challenges and systemic barriers.
Right.
But Kirk also emphasizes the importance of doing that inner work.
Yes. It's not just about changing the world around us. It's about changing the world within us.
Yes.
So what does that inner work look like?
Stay tuned for part 3.
We'll delve into that. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the unapologetic woman.
Yes.
And we've covered so much, like from the double standards to ways to support each other. But before we wrap up, I want to explore that inner work that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because honestly, some days it feels like the biggest battle is with my own self-doubt.
Yeah, you've hit on a key point there, and Kirk doesn't shy away from the fact that becoming an unapologetic woman often starts with challenging those negative beliefs we've internalized over time, those nagging voices that tell us we're not good enough.
Those voices.
Smart enough, worthy of success.
Where do they even come from?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Think about the messages that we're often bombarded with.
Yeah.
As girls and women, be nice, be quiet, don't be too assertive.
Right.
Put others' needs first.
It's like we're handed this script that tells us to play small
Yes.
and stay in our lane.
It's a tight lane.
Yeah, no wonder we end up questioning our own worthiness.
Right. But here's the empowering part.
Okay.
Kirk reminds us that we have the power to rewrite that script.
Okay.
We don't have to accept those limiting beliefs as truth. We can choose to believe in our own brilliance, our own capabilities.
I love that idea of rewriting the script.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
Well, it takes practice.
Okay.
One thing that Kirk suggests is becoming more aware of those negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And then consciously challenging them. So when that voice says, you're not qualified for that promotion.
Yeah.
You counter it with, I have the skills and experience to excel in this role.
So it's like retraining our brains to focus on our strengths instead of dwelling on our weaknesses.
Yeah, and it's also so crucial to surround yourself with supportive people who believe in you. Because sometimes we need those external voices to remind us of our own awesomeness when we're struggling to see it ourselves.
It's like having our own cheer squad.
Yes.
Right? Like our friends, our mentors.
Mentors.
Maybe even a therapist.
Absolutely. They can all be those cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Helping us to recognize and embrace our own value.
Totally. And as we do that work, as we start to believe in ourselves more, we start to show up differently.
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
We have more confidence.
More confidence, more risks.
We take more risks.
We attract those opportunities that align with our true potential.
It's like that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes.
So when we radiate self-belief,
you do.
We attract the people and the experiences
support our growth.
That support us and help us become the best versions of ourselves.
And that's the essence of being an unapologetic woman.
Yes.
It's not just about external achievements.
Right.
It's about cultivating that inner strength, that unshakable belief in your own worthiness.
Owning your story.
Yes.
Embracing your ambition.
Absolutely.
And not apologizing for being you.
And Davina Kirk says it so beautifully.
Oh, does she have a quote?
Yeah, she says, the world needs your unique voice, your unique perspective, your unique brilliance. Don't dim your light. Let it shine brightly.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Right.
That is a perfect note to end on. It's like a reminder that we all have something to offer.
Yes.
And when we embrace our authenticity and let our light shine, we create this ripple effect of empowerment.
That's beautiful.
So to all the listeners out there,
yes,
step into your unapologetic selves.
Yes, embrace your ambition.
Cultivate your inner strength.
And share your brilliance with the world.
We hope this deep dive has inspired you to rewrite your scripts, challenge the status quo, create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.
Keep shining.
Keep shining your light.
And remember, you are worthy, you are powerful.
Yes.
And you are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to.